one, you can. Oh, there's you used to be able to like have it pronounce words, I think.
Oh.
And that was in the original 1970s, 80s version. And then the new version, which is what we have, you have to use the app because I think they don't let you speak every word because they're worried people are going to say naughty things, which is like the whole point of having a speak and spell.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't have it pronounce words anymore.
No.
Using the built-in phoneme, but
okay.
So we'd make a speak and spell that does.
All right. The music. Okay, hi, live from Brooklyn. It's
Ask an Engineer.
It's Ask an Engineer.
Hi everybody, it's me, Lady the Engineer, with me, Mr. Lady Ada.
Yeah. This is a weird show because we're moving things around, moving stuff around. We're sort of on summer vacation with our kiddo. As some of you know, we have a new kid on the way, so we got to do a bunch of stuff. I've got this wooden thing. We got lots of stuff going on here.
Yeah,
and the show's a little late, but it's okay. You can see we got some fun stuff here planned. And then we have like a bunch of stuff behind us, just to give you an idea of what's going on. We're not going to do this. Yeah, we're not going to do this tonight. But if you look here, I guess I could switch cameras real fast to give everybody a little bit of a preview. So anyways, yeah, we're getting ready to do a lot of weird stuff. So this this is a Joy Division printer. It prints, I know it does other stuff, but it prints out posters of Joy Division so far. And then it also prints out other stuff like, here's this is a whiteboard thing that Martha Stewart sells at Staples. And it's a whiteboard, but then I'd use this whiteboard chalk stuff, which is kind of cool. And then the other thing this machine does besides do Hackaday logos and Joy Division posters, which is, it fell down over there. I got to put it back up. This guy, Simon Wilson, asks the LLM every single time to draw a pelican on a bicycle. And this is like the most advanced computer that we have in the world that has all of human knowledge. And this is what we're going to show aliens. This is us.
I mean, it is a pelican. I mean, if you said, what is that? Somebody would probably say, oh, it's like a bird on a bicycle. So it's,
I'd say people should not believe AI is real right now.
Yeah.
And it's thinking and sentient because that's not great.
It's not great.
Sorry, it's not. Someone should be real. Okay. So anyways, as I'm getting stuff going on here, oh, this thing's live. Okay. Yeah, anyways, so there's like weird stuff. This computer isn't the one I had set up the same way, and then that's a privacy thing. So we're gonna do a show no matter what.
We're here.
We're committed to the bit.
Yes.
I don't have time to tell you about the things that are attached to me that I'm not letting do things anymore. This is the B device that I was saying, hey, watch out, everybody. Amazon's going to buy them. They bought them. And I wanted to give them some information about like some security flaws and other stuff, but they won't get back to me, so I have to finish that article. So anyways, we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. And then there's an open source article where Prusa and Massimo say open source is dead. For them.
Long live the open source, right?
But anyways, this is going to be a weird show. We're going to do no products, and we're going to do INMPI. So buckle up, hang out. There's nothing else to really do tonight. It's Ask an Engineer.
Yeah.
All right. What do you want to do on tonight's show?
All right. Let's tell them the code and let's get.
Oh, there's no. We're not doing the code.
Sorry.
We're not doing. I'm going to put a code in chat. I didn't have time to set up.
Sorry, that's like my.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Let's see if anyone.
20 years of doing show.
Oh boy. I know, right? Let me see if anyone's actually watching. Oh yeah, they're watching. Okay.
Pretend. These are not the words you're looking for. Okay, let's get. Wait, you want to go into?
Yeah. So we're going to do open source hardware stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to do 3D printing. I got to get that video while we're doing something else. We're going to do INMPI. It's brought to you by DigiKey. This week it's XP Power. We're going to do new products. We'll answer questions. We'll do that on Discord throughout the evening. All that and more on, you guessed it.
Dun, dun.
On this episode of, see if I did this, I could start to do like I think like this. Yeah. Yeah. Like maybe like
weird cam.
Well, we could say like on this episode of, oh yeah, can you? On this episode of of Time Tunnel. Okay. On this episode of Time Tunnel.
You're doing a time tunnel in the background too. It's kind
Yeah. It's this episode of Time Tunnel. Oh, you know what? It flips the phone because it's I'm using my phone, everyone, that I'm supposed to use for phone calls as the camera here. Okay, so that's what we're doing this week on the show. Okay, let's jump right in.
Okay.
Let's do Ion and PI because I think we should take care of biz.
Yeah.
And then we'll do some rants and some new products, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. I said it was going to be a word show. Here we go. Ready?
I on NPI.
Hi, on MPI, brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit. Thank you so much, DigiKey. Every single week, Lady Ada uses her powers of engineering to introduce new products. That's right. NPI stands for New Product Introduction. This week, it's from
XP Power. We've got we haven't
let's see.
This company
I don't know
yet.
if this is gonna work.
Yeah.
Oh, so close. Wait. Come over.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Totally did not work. Oh, you know why? Here. Let's go back to this.
Okay.
Why don't you talk about them while I fix it?
Okay. So we haven't actually covered XP Power yet, but I liked their little pick and placeable modules that we're going to talk about today. So let's go to that. So we're going to talk about the PBT O2F series of pick and placeable isolated power supply DC-DC converters. It's kind of cool because I think we talked about a couple weeks ago power over Ethernet, and I mentioned like, oh, you often want to have isolated power over Ethernet, and often you want to convert the 48 volts to some other voltage, and so that's why you might want something like the PBT O2F series. So these are little modules, and what's neat about them is we've covered through-hole solderable or pick and placeable DC-DC converters before, from various companies. But what I thought was really interesting about this one is it listens to Joy Division. No,
what?
it's isolated. This is an isolated power supply.
That was the theme. That should have been
isolation. Yeah. And that's unusual because usually these little pick and place modules are just simple like DC-DC with an inductor. So why would you want isolation? Well, like I mentioned, sometimes you're dealing with a system where you're getting voltages coming in and maybe the ground is floating a little bit above what earth ground is. You don't want to have a fight between the two different grounds. For safety, for medical or industrial uses, there's oftentimes you have to make sure that, especially if you have like a EKG system, something that's connected to a person, there is no way possible for a high voltage to get to them. So you want to have air isolation. For noise reduction, for dealing with multiple different power supplies, there's a lot of reasons why you might want to have an isolated power supply, it's one that's small. So we've covered buck boost, buck converters, boost converters before. And what's interesting about these modules is some of them are buck and some are boost, and some of them are kind of like buck boost. They kind of have a linear regulator or some intermediate regulator to convert 5 volts into 5 volts out. And we've also covered isolation chips for buses like I2C, like this is the ISO 1541 or 1540, is an I2C isolator. And these use simple, magnetic or opto isolation. People who do stuff with MIDI, are familiar with opto isolators. It's a way of having data transfer without power just because you want the signal. But again, you don't want ground loops or audio feedback loops between all your equipment, sending, especially over long MIDI cables, where you might have noise coming in through the cables and antenna, and so you use opto isolation. But these are only good for signal, right? Opto isolators and other, low power, they don't transfer power, they just transfer signal. You still have to power the other side. The only way to really get power isolation and transference is through a transformer like this one. We have 2 coils and then a magnetic core in the center, and you put AC in one side and you get AC on the other side. That's the thing. It has to be AC, it can't be DC. And so, because of that, you kind of are forced, even if it is linear 5 volts in, 5 volts out, you must convert that 5 volts DC into AC and then do the isolation and then back down to DC. And so, the format that's often used is a form of the buck boost topology, but instead of a simple inductor, you use a transformer, and it's called an isolated flyback. You can read all about it. But that's basically, the kind of technology that's in these. They're good for a couple watts. One thing to note is, there's a lot of different varieties. You see the input voltage can be 3, 5, 12, 15, or 24 volts, and then output voltages can be sometimes they're buck, sometimes they're boost, and sometimes they're right in the middle. They also have those split supplies at the bottom, the plus minus 15, which I thought was kind of interesting. You'll note that there isn't a lot of current output, right? Like, especially if you're doing the split supply or you're doing boosting, you're not going to get a ton of current, maybe like 100, 200, maybe at max here looks like 600 milliamps. And the efficiency is also not going to be as good as your non-isolated transformer, right? Those are always going to get you like 90+%. Here, it's like 70 to 80, maybe 85. Buck converters are going to give you pretty good efficiency, but you're just going to have lossage due to that transformer. One nice thing about transformers that I thought was kind of cute that they took advantage of is if you have a transformer that, and you're using it as an AC isolation, you can easily convert an input voltage into a split output by having a center tap. And that's what they did for those bottom plus minus 9 volt outputs, right? If you want a split supply, often used for like, medical or industrial uses. And I also like how compact this is. I think like I asked, my Claude AI, like, what is about the size? And it was like an espresso covered coffee bean. So, if you want something as small as an espresso covered coffee bean that gives you isolated
Really?
buck boost or
that
buck
was
boost.
the measurement?
Yeah, I think I asked. So
that's
I asked it
cool.
for food, and it was like a espresso.
Wow.
And
do you think that's right?
I think it is about right. It's like a little bit. It's like a half an inch by a half an inch by a quarter inch or something. Pick and placeable, very compact, and they're in stock at DigiKey right now for immediate order. So if you, I think there's somebody out there who's like, oh man, I really need, isolated power supply, convert voltages, regulated output. And it's like, I don't have to do a lot of work. I just pick and place this on and my power supply solution is ready to go. So it's in stock at DigiKey. Pick it up.
Let's have you over here and let's see what happens when we do this time.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
That's MPI?
I'm doing a multi thing here so we can have like a stage in a stage.
Yeah.
See y'all next week. Thanks for coming by on MPI.
On MPI.
Okay, so now come over here. Okay, this is getting good. And then I think what we can do too is that one's not green screened. Let's see what happens when we green screen it now that we're here.
Mm-hmm.
There's really only one way to do this stuff.
Magic.
It's just do it live. Well, that's pretty good, right?
Okay.
Let's see what happens now. Ooh.
That's not bad.
We're in a time tunnel.
Time tunnel.
We wanted to do time tunnel.
Okay.
If you're allergic to time tunnels, folks, you do it. So let's do, it's time to do new products idea.
Okay, let's do it.
And then we'll see what else we have time for. All right?
Okay, first up, we have a bunch of 24-pin FPC cables. These don't make a ton of sense yet because they're for a future product. We have some e-ink displays that need to have their pins reversed, and I thought it would just be easier to carry these cables that will do the pin reversing for you. But, if you ever need a flexible FPC cable with 0.5 millimeter pitch, 24 pins, I think we have them in 50, 100, and 250 millimeters long. We have them in stock. Like I said, you'll see what these are for later. Speaking of e-ink displays, we also put some raw e-ink displays in the store. We're getting these at a good enough price that I can box them up and sell them to you, which is awesome. So this one is the 2.13-inch monochrome SSD 1680. That's a nice modern chipset. It's very fast. It can also do 4-layer grayscale. So it's like black, white, and then like light gray and dark gray. If you load it with the software that we have for Arduino or CircuitPython, there's like a lookup table you have to load in, but then you can do grayscale color. We'll also put the tricolor version in the store soon, and we'll soon be able to get people the individual e-ink displays. Of course, as a reminder, you need to have it be driven by something. You can't just like plug into a breadboard. So the Think Ink Feather shown here is a great match. Okay, next up, we also have a 4.2-inch grayscale and tricolor display. And I thought I'd show this on the overhead because
we have an overhead.
I got the demo going, but it's here. So this is the grayscale version. Can you mind taking the speak and spell? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so this is 4.2-inch grayscale. And you can see, like, I didn't have the dark gray. This is actually on kind of light gray. But it's 400 by 300 pixels. Uses an SSD 1683, which is actually very, very similar to the 1680 driver. And then we also have the tricolor version, which will give you red, black, or the white background. So, you pick which one you want. They're basically the same price, but the grayscale one is going to look great if you're doing monochromatic art, and the red, black, and white background one is going to be good if you want like spot color. Only thing is whenever you get tricolor, they always take 15 seconds to update, whereas the monochromatic ones take only about 2 seconds to update. So if update speed is important, pick up the monochrome, but if you want that splash of color, you don't mind taking a little longer, get the tricolor.
That overhead still looks better. I tried the other thing.
It really does look quite good. Yeah.
All right, we're going to stick with it.
And ink, this is like,
it looks great
for the ink.
Black and white is very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, star of the show tonight, besides you, Lady Ada, our team, our customers, the people who like doing open source, it's Fruit Jam.
Yay! So
it's here.
We finally have Fruit Jam in the store. I know it's been a journey. This got tariffed and then untariffed, and then now there's
it got betrayed. It came back from the dead.
There's a lot going on, but we're selling this as a little kit. So stop here. So you get the Fruit Jam main board, which we'll talk about in a second. You get this front plate, the screws to attach your bumpers, and a speaker. And the speaker plugs in. There's a built-in amplifier that has like a 1-watt speaker. You can also use headphones. And, I just put on the back like all the stuff built in. So this is a credit card sized computer, but it's just jam packed with all sorts of stuff. Let's go to the overhead and I'll just kind of point out everything. So it's based, and it's changed too. Like since we announced it, I added some stuff. I took some stuff away. Phil had some good ideas we implemented.
Also had some bad ideas that didn't make it. But
yeah, but we always entertain everything.
On the director's cut of this, you can see those maybe.
Yeah. Let me break this out a little bit. So the heart of it is the RP2350 chip. This is the B version, so it's 80 pin. So we use like every GPIO. There's DVI output using HSTX. So it can do, with some smarts, you can do 720p, but honestly, it's best to do something like 640 by 480 video. And we've got Arduino and CircuitPython support for that. USB-C for connecting, uploading data. You can transfer data back and forth. They connect like a MIDI device or, a USB keyboard or whatever. Micro SD card with SDIO, so you can do pretty fast data reads off of it. We've got an ESP32C6. This is a Wi-Fi coprocessor connected to this chip, so you can go onto the internet and get data from it. We've got 5 NeoPixels. We've got that speaker connector here. You can connect a little 4.8 ohm speaker to have onboard audio through the DAC. You know, analog input here, stemma QT for I2C, big chunky on-off switch, extra GPIO. So actually, it's labeled best on the back. Oh, actually, no, sorry, it's not labeled on the back. It's labeled on the overhead plate, which I'll show in a minute. You know, power, analog inputs, digital. So you want to, you know, extend it, add more hardware. 2 USB ports. There's a little USB hub here, so you can have mouse and keyboard. 3 buttons, including there's also a reset button over here. 16 megabytes of flash, that's like the most you can have. 8 megabytes of PSRAM, which is great because if you're doing video, you're going to use almost all the SRAM for the video buffering, and this means you can have extra space for your CircuitPython code, or if you want to like run Doom and you want to have like the whole WAD file loaded in, it can do that. A DAC, which can do stereo headphone output or that mono speaker. It's a really nice I2S DAC for high quality audio. And some mounting plates, and then let's go over here. So it also comes with this top plate. The top plate sits on top. You bolt it on. It has all the labeling, and it has like these, you know, nice cutouts for all the LEDs and stuff. Oh, there's also an IR LED and a debug port. I keep forgetting. There's like so much stuff that we added.
Yeah.
So we already got a lot of demos for it. We have a Mac Classic emulator that we have working on it. There's like a CPM emulator. We have some CircuitPython code. Wanted to get these in the shop so that people could try them out. We only put in a couple to start. Next week we'll have more and more. As we put more in stock, sign up, we'll notify you, but we'll also highlight it on Ask Engineer.
Yeah, we're about to do a whole bunch of videos. As you can tell, we're setting up a video area again in our new place for video because it's new products. And if you buy some, it'll help us pay for a kid that's on the way. All right, so that's the new products for this week, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, so stick around. I'll put a code in after we stop broadcasting.
Yeah.
while you
I'll take
get
over.
kiddo. Yeah.
Okay.
So while you get kiddo, and I'll wrap up
Yeah.
here. So this is going to be the show for tonight. We're going to do other segments later, but this is the live portion. We'll do some pre-orders, pre-rolls,
Records. Pre-rolls.
This was pre-recorded. I don't know, what do you call it? Like there's ad rolls. You have you have mid rolls
That's
for
just
ads.
funny.
You have pre-rolls and post-rolls.
Yeah.
But then every time I walk around anywhere in Brooklyn, there's all these signs that says pre-rolls.
I know.
What are
It's
those?
confusing.
Oh, it's when they roll up the cigarettes and
It's
stuff.
spelled, yeah, they spell it.
They roll up for
The
you.
joint
Because
for you.
why would you do it yourself?
That was like the whole point of parties. There was that one guy who could really roll.
There was a guy who was good at it.
Yeah, and he had like.
Was it always a guy?
No, there's sometimes it was a woman.
Yeah, she was the coolest person, right?
Yeah, she was cool. She had like an undercut, and like she's like blue hair and
Okay.
stuff. And
Anyways, so
she was like a PhD in physics.
it's going to be like 4 hours of this from now. No, but however, before she goes, we're going to do one quick thing. We're going to do a little bit of open source hardware news.
Okay.
So I was like minding my own business.
That is not.
Far away from home. I was looking for a dinosaur. Anyways, so Make's newsletter came out, which I like. I'm a subscriber. I'm a subscriber to Make, and I used to work at Make and all that stuff. So this is I don't know if you could see what I see everybody here because I have a weird brother stuff. Anyways, Dale, the founder of Make, and then later on Make Co and all that stuff. And he went to, I guess, this event, or he saw it somehow, and it's Fab 25.
Yeah.
And basically, Massimo and Prusa are talking about stuff. Massimo, co-founder of Arduino, Prusa, founder of Prusa.
His name is the printer.
And I've been trying to get Massimo and Prusa to talk about some of the things they're saying. And they said it on stage. They keep saying the same things, but let me just give you the highlights that Dale wrote about. It's not an article from me. Good work, Dale. This is an article I would have wrote. I've written chunks of this. And Dale can link to these articles if my other articles he wants, including the ones on Make. Is China using the patent system to gain total control of 3D printing? So Prusa is saying, like, yeah, that's what's happening.
I don't disagree. It could very well be true.
Yeah, it could be very true. And then Prusa, back in 2012, is saying to MakerBot, hey, watch out. You guys aren't, the Replicator 2 is not open source. So he says, fail, sad. And he tagged Brian Jepson, Adafruit, Make, and Hackaday. I started Hackaday. I had nothing to do with this at this time. I was at Make, I think, at the time. And then you were doing stuff at Adafruit, and I was doing stuff with you. And then I, of course, know Brian Jepson's an editor at O'Reilly, but now he's at Raspberry Pi. So Prusa got a hold of us, and he wanted us to say, oh my gosh, open source, you're not doing it anymore. But anyways, and then he's here, and see, he has a tattoo of the open source hardware logo, and I did the open source logo. So he's to deal with that. Anyways, these are all the things. It's a big article. Dale did a really good job. Massimo speaks out. The thing about Massimo that I was like, he said that all his problems had things to do with licensing, and so did Prusa. And I want you just like, you summarize this because I'm going to follow up later after I get a chance to talk to them. And it just goes on and on and on. So Maker Tree and all this stuff. So let's just go back to the beginning. And I want you to say the thing that you were talking to me, because the whole thing keeps coming down to Massimo and Prusa saying, I would not do open source again. And that sucks.
There's a question like, would you do it again? And what I think was interesting about this article, and this kind of comes up like whenever I talk to people about open source hardware, especially if they're like, oh, I get it, I'm not doing it anymore. So if you actually look at and I say this like from the first talk, your business and open source hardware are totally separate things. They're equally hard, or like they're different problems, they have different solutions. And so when Prusa talks about like, oh, the patents are killing open source hardware, but open source hardware also got him where he was. Like, he's like, I wouldn't do it, but if he didn't do it, he probably wouldn't have had as much success.
So
like, a lot of people bought it because it was open source.
RepRap was a huge booster rocket that, much like the LLMs that people complain about, it's open source, which is very powerful, slurps up all of our good knowledge, all of our good efforts, millions of hours of like human time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And he got to stand on all of our work together. And that's great. That's the point. And then you go out and do a business. But on the way out, when you blame it on open source and it's not true, the people who are doing open source probably aren't going to know. They're going to notice. And so when you say patents, that has nothing to do with a license. There's no license that will protect anything you're talking about.
Especially since like, oh,
you have to stop saying that.
Prior art, and we would invalidate it, but like it just takes so much time. And I'm like, then it doesn't matter what license you have.
Then it doesn't matter what license. And the same thing with Arduino. It's like, well, I wouldn't do open source. I would change licensing, all this stuff. But when Massimo talks about stuff, he says,
It was a trademark.
it was a trademark issue, and it was one of the co-founders that went rogue or whatever.
So it had nothing to do with
Had nothing-
they had nothing to do with open source hardware.
What license are you have a license that say, hey, longtime friend, don't F me over? What license is that? A contract? Yeah, you can do contracts.
Okay, also, I gotta say this thing every single time. Guys, there's actually no protection for schematics and PCB layouts. If I redraw a schematic, it's not like you have any copyright or licensing that it's politeness. There's no legal guidance on it.
So
it's only firmware and software that actually is protectable by copyright.
Yeah, and that's what open source hardware is. You can do trademarks of your hardware. You can do all sorts of stuff. But here's the thing: I'm having a birthday soon, and I'm just wrapping up stuff, and I'm emailing some people. I'm like, hey, I'm getting older, and I'm not gonna write about this stuff and talk about, but here's what you did, and here's what you should do. You can make it right. It's up to you, and outlining stuff. So a good example, I think, and this is based on all evidence that's obvious, I think, out there, if you just look online, a giant company is about to close the sale on Arduino, and you could probably figure it out if you look. It's probably one of the big ones. Amazon would make sense. Qualcomm would make sense. All these would make sense if you look at the acquisitions in the space. Amazon just acquired B, which is a device I really liked. I would turn it on with my daughter and I, and we would talk about something, and it summarizes and does stuff. But there's some security issues, trademark issues, copyright issues, lots of issues that go into an always-on microphone that does stuff. And when you contact them, they'll say, yeah, we're interested. And then they are probably told they're getting acquired, and yet they're in a quiet period. So when the terms of services of all these devices change, and you don't get a choice, and when Arduino's terms of service change, or when the IDE changes, or when Prusa changes from open source to closed source, and all of us are just like, okay, and we get these licensing agreements and click-through agreements, all this stuff. They're just deciding to jettison open source and throw it under a bus. But we can decide to say, well, it's not that. You should really explain what it is, because if you're going to do open source, why don't you help the people still doing open source and say, why didn't it work out? Did you make enough money? Did you not have a way to have more than one product? We do open source, but we have to move so fast. We're just constantly doing new products, because if we did closed source, it wouldn't matter. We still have to do new products. It wouldn't matter. If we closed source everything, you still have to be the bear. Yeah. Or the person near the bear, right?
I mean,
new business is the business.
There's a lot of companies that are closed source, and they also get put out of business.
Well, most companies that are like the history of companies.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit of a random everything, and we're going to bounce.
Yeah.
But anyways, Massimo and Prusa, please answer a couple questions, because I know the open source community would love to know what didn't work out. And don't say licensing, because it's not that. There's no magic license. It's not like a spell.
Yeah.
Wizards. Okay, so.
Okay, I'm going to put this down.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll see you later. Yeah, don't go downstairs with a microphone on.
It's going to be 90 decibels.
Yeah. So anyways, like I said, it's a word show. So I'm going to put this here like this. Okay, everybody, that's the show. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to end it here.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
I'm going to keep doing open source hardware, but I'm also going to go.
Yeah. What was your code? I'm going to keep doing open source hardware, where you guys argue about open source hardware.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then the thing I got.
Well, Fruit Jam's open source. We're going to put plus files in a couple days.
Yeah. It won't be soon enough, though. It'll be like, you guys aren't doing open source. Anyways, someone said something that I thought was good. And everyone should remember this.
Yeah.
And I think you saw this. You know what's good sometimes? To always know that it's possible to have an unknown outcome. Because if you can't have unknown outcomes, guess what? You can't really do anything.
Yeah.
Because it's already been decided.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.
Moment of team.
Good night.
Well, that's a great show. I'm so glad I didn't leave the microphone on when I ended the show, by the way.